Hey, welcome back to another episode of Gear in the Machine. This is our second podcast that we're doing. So this isn't live, it's been pre-recorded inside our studio. We're going to be answering questions from the community and doing our best to talk about ranked and how the ranks work, like what different scenarios are. So right now, Dana, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on with the community and ranks?
Right, so we did a rank reset last week. And as a way to just reorient the system a little bit. Rank resets are going to take place every operation. This one we wanted to accelerate a little bit because there were some things that we learned.
Right.
So do you want to talk about, why don't we start with that? What did we learn? Why did we do the mid-season rank reset?
Sure, so that's a great question. So when we launched in the ranked ecosystem, like inside all the ranks, there was, we had not exactly tuned it, and there were some bugs in the system that had introduced a bunch of noise to everybody's ranks. So when you played, it was a little bit like, it still kind of judged your performance, but it didn't get it really right. It was sort of, there was randomness within it. So you'd go, I won, and I went down a lot. I would, another time I would win, and I'd go up, and then I would lose, and I would go up, and I would lose, and I would go down. So there really wasn't, based on reality, it was kind of just a very noisy system. So we had to clear out everybody's ranks. We had to fix the bugs. We had to retune it and start it again so that the ranks would behave properly. Okay. And that was something that if we didn't do that, it would just sort of continue to be random over time. Yeah. So we needed to wipe out all that noise and then start again.
Okay, so great. Questions from the fans. So at Gaz of War asks, and I think this is the good first question. How does the point system actually work?
So that's a fantastic question, and we really wish that the software, the game, did a much better job of explaining this to you. So we're not trying to hide it from you. It's our apologies that it's opaque. It really should be obvious to you guys, and we will do our, improve the game in the future so you'll be able to see how all this stuff works.
And it should be obvious, and that we should manifest it so it's obvious. It shouldn't be obvious in the, right now there's a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, so in the future we'll make it less confusing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Hopefully more than less confusing, hopefully clear. Yeah. So the whole idea behind, I'm going to start at the beginning just to, if some of this is already familiar to you, I apologize. I'm going to sort of start at the beginning of what a ranking system is. So the skill points are a way of communicating how good you are in terms of a skill level inside the game. So it's intended to reflect your actual skill at playing Gears. So what that means is that a really good person can rely on the fact that their higher rank means that they're better than somebody that has a lower rank. So it's skill-based. That means that it isn't just the more you play, the more you go up, right? It means that you can rely on the fact that a Masters player is better than a gold player, who's better than a silver, who's better than a bronze. Now, we also know that to make those top levels satisfying, people want to earn them in a season, and that makes a lot of sense to us. So the approach that we took is, we want to have the system overall represent the top of the skill level to the bottom, but as you start, you won't start right at the top. You're going to have to play over the season, not grind, but you have to play a lot and prove that you can earn that high level of skill over time. Right, and that really means that you earned the high levels of skill, you were committed to the game, you kept your skill either consistent or you kept growing, and new players got added and you could beat them. And if somebody new got added to the game, that they were just this amazing star player that after enough time, they would get to the top, right? But they would have to play enough to be able to prove it to everybody that they could get there. So there is a bit of a time component inside the skill system, but so if you play enough, it will show you your skill amongst the entire playing community. Right after placement, it may not show you exactly where you'll end up. It'll probably be a bit of a distance between where you come out of placement and when you're going to end up, but over time, as you play, you'll move towards where like your intrinsic skill is. Now, we were a little conservative with this reset, so we kind of wanted to place people pretty like a little further down, so
Okay.
that because if we kind of missed the tuning a little bit and everybody kind of got populated out, then like there wouldn't be, we didn't want the same thing to happen before where like people ended up in a whole bunch of higgledy-piggledy
Well,
places.
and psychologically speaking, it feels a lot better if I get placed at gold 2 and I move up
Yeah.
to gold 3 rather than getting placed
Go
at
to
gold
gold
3
three.
and moving down to gold
So
2.
we were a little conservative, just
Right.
because we were a little like we wanted to make sure that it came. Now, turns out that even with the conservative tuning, like there were some people that were really good at the game that still got placed like really high up, and some other ones that were also really good at the game got placed a little further down. We found that issue, and like we've retuned it. And for the season reset going forward, that won't be the case. Everybody's going to start somewhere between like bronze 1 and like after placement, like bronze 1 to silver 3-ish is sort of the range of placement. And then if you're really good, you're going to go up pretty quickly out of silver 3. You're going to like you'll gold 1 and then gold 2 and then gold 3 like pretty quickly and move up towards where you're going to end up. Now, once we kind of have this smooth and we kind of know how this pattern looks, we'll be able to place people a little bit closer to where they're like kind of going to end up, and we could be a little more aggressive in kind of making that grind like a little bit shorter. However, it isn't going to add right now. You might be placed a little lower, but you're going to go move up faster right now. So we just want to make sure that the system's very stable before we get like really tight.
Right. Okay.
So that's sort of the like framework for the beginning. Now, skill points range from 0 to 2,000. Oh, sorry, 20,000, right? So 0 to 20,000. And so a whole team of 5 is 0 to 100,000. So 20,000 points, like the worst player possible is 0. And the best player, no, you're like a solid 10 points. And the best player is 20,000. Now, there might be a people that like have all kind of very similarly proven, and they're all sort of sitting at 20,000. We're looking at kind of maybe going to some decimal places when you get up into that range, just to sort of separate.
And
out
at that
the
level,
people
it's
top.
almost kind of like an any given Sunday. Like the people that are that good should be fairly competitive with each other.
The thing is, there's way more than 20,000 people playing, right? So
By a lot.
by a lot. So even if you have let's say you had 200,000 people playing at any one time, that means that there's 10 people that would kind of sort of fit close to that category, right?
Right.
And so what we want to be able to do is give those people a resolution to that whatchamacallit.
Rather than having 200 people tied for first.
Exactly.
You want someone to say I am legit the best King of the Hill player.
The best King of the Hill player. So
Okay.
we want to add a decimal place somewhere, either through the whole thing or just for Masters or something, where we can sort of tease out those top players. Right?
Right.
For most people, it doesn't matter because it's just they have so many skill points to go. It's really just for those people right at the top. So your skill is 0 to 20,000. So we're going to go to a whiteboard for the next one, which is dangerous. We totally.
I'm going to be in the meme. I'm excited.
Yeah. So.
Let me pull this out.
Yeah, we'll just move my chair a little bit.
You got it driving?
Yeah.
As we hit our
Oh,
lights.
shit. So we're going to take a quick look at kind of what is going on behind the scenes with the tiers, and we're going to explain some of the structure behind it and how we represent it and how it gets updated. So when we think of skill, we think of kind of a range of skill from the bottom to the top. This is, like we talked about, skill. This is that 0 to 20,000 that we talked about. And under the hood, it's actually sort of a really precise number. So we actually have a really long, 20 digits or something of precision, but we don't show everybody the little tiny numbers. So for the number of people at a particular skill level, the most number of people are right around the middle. And skill actually turns out to be a pretty close to a bell curve, which I'm sure a bunch of you are familiar with. And so this axis here is the number of players. And we divide this up into tiers, right? Bronze, silver, like gold, onyx, and then diamond and master. So diamond is actually the top 2%, and masters is the top like 0.2% roughly, because it's, yeah. So this actually isn't proportional to how big these are. Like this is just for illustrative purposes. This is actually much further this way. So, but just we drew it so you
Yeah,
can
your
see it.
tail is going to be a little bit longer and narrow
it's
as you
gonna be
move
longer,
along.
yeah. So we divide each one of these up into sub-tiers. I'll just draw these ones like bronze 1, 2, and 3, silver 1, 2, and 3, so you know that you're making progress. We now tell you kind of where you are. Like, are you in the top 25% of that division? And we obviously have a leaderboard that shows you where you are in this range. So when you play another team, what we have is we have 5v5 where you've got like Cog and Swarm, and you actually have like a bunch of numbers from like for each team for 5 players. You've got whatever. We'll just turn it into like
You just do 10,000. Yeah, 1 to 20, sure.
Right. So you've got like a 5, 4, a 6, a 7, and like a 3 or something, right? And then over here you've got like a 6, 6, 5, 3, 3 or something. So like this, the thing that puts these matches together is the matchmaker. So the matchmaker uses the skill rating, but skill rating and matchmaking are not the same thing. They work together, but the skill rating system just produces how we measure your skill. Matchmaking has a whole bunch of other considerations around QoS, around wait times, regions, like data centers, all that stuff. So that's like not really what we're talking about right now. We're really just talking about once the match gets made, like how does the skill system work?
Right.
Okay. So these two teams, to simplify some of it, we look at kind of the relative weights here, right? So we've got 9, 15, 22, 24, 12, 17,
23.
20, 23, right? So this team is slightly better. This is a pretty good matchup. They're not exactly the same, but they're pretty close. So what we do is we say, okay, well, like for this game, it's pretty close overall. So we expect the teams to win roughly 50%. Like this one will win maybe, the chance of winning is 55 or 57 to, whatchamacallit, like 43. And maybe there's a percentage or two of tie in between, like a draw in between. So, and we do that on a round to round basis. And like this percentage chance to win is done by an algorithm that takes all these numbers and crunches them using a whole bunch of like formulas to say we predict like this is the chance of this team winning versus this team winning. So we'll just say that this team has a 52 and this team has a 48, right? Now that doesn't mean that this team is always going to win. It just means if they played enough matches, they played thousands of matches, this team would win 52% of them, right? It's like, so, or millions or whatever. So each of these people now has like a responsibility to the team to perform at their expected skill level. So this guy's expected to perform at a 6 because we've calculated that this team has a 48% chance of winning, and to hit that 48% chance, he has to perform like his skill rating.
So does this guy have to perform twice as good as this guy?
We'll just say like whether the number is 2 or some other number, but roughly, yes.
Okay.
So like he is accountable for roughly twice the performance that this guy is. Now, I don't know that that ratio is exactly 2, but conceptually, he is much more accountable than this person is for the win or the loss. Because this person here can't do as much as this person. So if this person performs like 25% better than their capability, which is a huge deal, like they can still only get to, like 3.75 or something like that, right? So this person here can do that in their sleep.
Right.
So
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is the ideal state to have all 6s versus all 6s? Or all 3s versus all 3s, or whatever it would
the
be?
ideal state, like the ideal game, is for these two numbers to be equal and these numbers to all be equal and have nobody quit.
Right.
And to have all of them perform.
Perform the weather, because
Perform
you
to
could
the
have
best of
this
their
guy
ability.
could be like he got a phone call and he's playing but he's not playing 100%
That's right.
active. Like there's all these nuances that you
That's
can't
right.
take into consideration.
Like this guy was partying a little bit. This person's super into it today. Like they're just on fire, whatever. So like there is variability.
Yeah, this guy's
right?
been at the bar, so he comes back,
Yeah.
so his reactions are slow. I get what you're saying.
But the other thing to note is all of these skills are not are generally not exactly where they will end up. Okay? So this 3 could represent a person that has played a lot and be at 3.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could represent a 5 that just started.
Right.
Okay? So they are actually, at the end of this game, we'll say that this 3 here, his real intrinsic skill level, which we haven't figured out yet, is 3. And this person here is a 5. So in terms of the matchmaking, they both look like 3s.
Right.
And they both see the same rank. But this person here is
Performed
going to
as well
perform
as
better.
that guy.
Is going to perform as
Then
well as that guy.
he's gonna say, hey, you got
Yeah.
not a lot of points. You didn't go up, you didn't go down. You kind of stayed roughly where you were.
Right.
Whereas this guy, he's gonna get more points because what the system is slowly trying to do is trying to get his rank to be aligned
That's
with
right.
that guy's rank.
That's right. So this guy here, he's going to actually perform at a 9.
Okay.
So he's kicking ass. This person here is going to perform at a level of a 3. Okay.
I get those guys a lot.
Well, you don't know. To the other team, it's going to look like this, right? And this person here is just going to do exactly what they were predicted to
5.
do, which is a 5, right? So at the end of the game, what we see is that this person here was primarily has the most responsibility for the outcome of the game, right? The winningness of the game.
Right.
Right. So let's say in this scenario, this team actually wins. They beat expectations, and at the end, this team wins.
Right.
So they beat expectations by winning, and these people, as a team, didn't beat expectations, right? Because they
actually missed expectations.
They actually missed, but not not by let's say actually this team won. Let's say it's best out of 5 rounds. Doesn't matter what the game mode is. This team won obviously 5 rounds.
Best of 5.
Best of 5. Sorry, I meant first to 5.
First to 5.
Yeah, first to 5. So they won 5 rounds, and this team won 2 rounds.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this team was predicted to win, right? And because this team won a lot more rounds, what it's actually saying is they're not just a little bit better; they're actually, a reasonable amount better. So that win will actually count for more than if they had just done versus 4, which basically says they're pretty close. And if this was actually 0, let's pretend it's 0. What this is saying is that this team that was predicted to not win is actually kicking the crap out of somebody
That was
what was predicted to win. So what it means is that, oh, we have totally misjudged where they currently are.
Right.
Bloop, they're going to move up a little bit, right? So this guy on the other side that basically lost, he actually was performing at a 10. Okay.
Okay. So he was carrying his team.
He was carrying his team, right? So this one here was 2. This one here was a 3. This here was a 5. And this guy was at a 4 because he's coming up, right?
Yeah.
So I better make sure that these are actually lower than this, but whatever, 12, 15, 20, 24. So they actually were on target for their expectations, but 12, 17, 20, 25, right? So a little bit more. So they were a little bit higher. Now, this is a bit of a challenge for any ranking system. So if we go strictly based on win-loss, this team, did significantly better than this team did, right? And so this whole team would move up a lot, right?
Right.
Now, and this whole team would move down a lot, which we can like if after, at the end of all this, we're totally open to moving to just a win-loss based system if that's kind of what everybody wants to do.
This is the intended design. This is the ideal scenario. We can have a different conversation. We're moving from a philosophical conversation at that point.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah.
but what I mean is that like we heard a lot of feedback from players that this scenario wasn't fun, where like even though they lost, they were like seriously outplaying everybody on their team, and they still went down at the end.
Right.
So the other thing is this person here who was responsible like for the win, if they go up at the same amount that this guy does here, well, these two people will actually move up together, right?
Based purely on a win-loss
Purely
system.
on win-loss, right? So if this keeps happening, even though this person's a 3 and this person's a 9, if they play together, these are two friends, like, or maybe no, sorry, they're not two friends, they're just two randoms, right? But if they sort of keep ending up in games like this, they'll move up together. So this, even though this person did 3 times the amount of work that this person did.
And then this is where the overtime, because you take like bad games, you can throw away kind of the really good performances and the really bad. You don't like physically, but you kind of like
it just means you have to
averages
play
it all out.
a lot more games. Like it goes from the tens of games to the hundreds of games.
So you're saying in a win-loss scenario, if these two people win all the time, even though this guy is clearly a better player than this guy is, this guy is going to end up in an Onyx setting, even though he probably doesn't have the individual skill of an Onyx setting.
That's right.
Okay.
Which is actually going to be a problem for him, which oddly.
And his team.
Because as soon, so basically he's going to be a burden to his team and he keeps getting carried by everybody else.
He becomes this guy.
Yeah. No, he becomes like himself. Like he's the one where he's playing lower than he is.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'm saying. But in the context of this, he's also, maybe he becomes more like that guy, where he's.
So when this goes up to a 7 or an 8 or a 9, like this is becoming more problematic. And when he plays a game where he's expected to tent pole, he'll just collapse and he'll take the rest of his team with him, and he's going to just drop. And he's going to drop again, and he's going to drop again. Like if he gets carried for a while, it's just setting him up for like this ride down. So that's
because eventually he's going to play on a team that loses.
That's right. So win-loss is fine. It's a totally valid system. It just means that you'll get like you tent pole like on a losing team. Sorry, and if you can get carried on a winning team, and people will complain that why do they get put with people that aren't as good as them?
Yeah.
And like
which we're going to get into that question a little bit.
But we just talked about the fact that these two games were actually fair, and we knew that their chances of winning were pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, yes, like this person can mill this person, but then there's two like better players here. So like it isn't. I'm using simplified math here, so there's much more sophisticated
and
math
usually
behind the
we don't
scenes.
have this range of number. Usually we're not.
Well, this is pretty, like, these people are all kind of in here, to be honest. Like, if 20 is over here, they're all lower than 10. Like, they're all kind of in this range here, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like we're not talking about
Yeah, we're not
diamonds and
adding a
bronzes.
15, because a 15 in here would just, like, run roughshod over everybody.
That's right. So they're all pretty close in terms of skill levels. So we could look at both. As soon as we look at anything other than like win-loss, it starts to be something about how the person performed, right? Like something about like I did something different than my teammates, and that's where individual performance comes in.
What is the point breakdown between the win percentage and the skill and the individual? So let's take these two guys, right? They both performed above expectations. Right. This guy won, so obviously that helped, and he was on a team that expected to lose. But of the percentage points increase that he's going to get, or this person may or may not get, where does the win and the loss? How much does that help, or how much does that punish?
Right. So you won't like the answer, which is it'll depend on the game mode. Okay. So what the system does is it figures out like how much winning in the past leads to winning in the future.
Okay.
And how much individual performance in the past leads to winning in the future. Okay?
Okay.
So like it looks at all the games ever and it says like here like we watch to see this person like won a lot of games and they ended up kind of here, and this person individually performed really well and they ended up here, and it'll kind of figure out that the weighting between the two of these factors, right? And the other part you're not going to like is that it keeps recalculating this all the time. So what that means is that if people learn this, and they're like, oh, all that matters is individual performance, which it doesn't. Win-loss is a big part of it. Like, then they change their behavior to go and just start getting kills, then the system will adapt and it'll start to weight win-loss more heavily, right? So it's always looking for the best predictor for the success of the team.
So what, like those people that want to play TDM style and Koth,
Yeah.
like they don't play the objective, they just run around and they want to shoot people because they like the infinite respawns and
Yeah.
all that kind of, like those people impact the way that the system looks at someone that plays the objectives and plays to win versus someone that plays for kills. Like, the machine system learns those two different types of people.
What it's looking for is the factors of how people play that lead best to winning.
Correct.
So what that means is that if you play mainly for objectives and don't get many kills, this is what that means for winning.
Right, right.
If you get a lot of kills and don't get many objectives, like this is what that means for winning. And it will judge like all the combinations of those to figure out what leads to the best chances of winning, which is what skill is. If you put people together, the higher skill will win. It's about like what will predict winning.
Okay.
Right? So here we had a whole bunch of things about predicting winning. We did a whole bunch of things about predicting individual contributions. And at the end, we compare you versus the expectations. Like these people were not like expected to win. They also won by sort of a landslide. Like this person here performed 50% above where they were. This guy's going to go up quite a bit, right? So this person, like the person here who like underperformed, was like this six here, yeah. So this 6 here underperformed, lost a lot, was predicted to win. He's going to drop a lot.
Yeah. What about this guy?
So in our current system, very likely this guy's going to go up because it's recognized that like he was tent poling so hard. Now he might go down because of the 5-0, but like it depends on the mode. It depends on the exact sort of ratios of all these, and in some circumstances, given like the relative teams, he might go down, but probably with performing double his expectations and tent poling his team like that, like he's responsible for almost half the performance of his team, it's very likely he'd go up.
Yeah.
Now for the fun part, which is where you win, okay, and you go down.
Right.
So skill systems have to be balanced. In order to give this guy points for tent poling, we have to take them from somebody else because
It's a pie.
it's about winning, right?
Right.
We can't say, like, if we're playing, I can't say, well, you have a 60% chance of winning and I have a 60% chance of winning.
Right.
You have a 90% chance of winning and I have a 90% chance of winning. At the end of the day, there's just a 100% chance, and we have to have like
Someone's got to win. Someone's got to lose.
yeah, exactly. It has to add up to 100%. So to give this guy points, we have to take them from somebody else.
Okay.
So where we're going to take them from is a person that was really expected to succeed, like against, relative to help their team win. Now, given they won 5-0, maybe he kind of stays even. But if we switch this to 5-3, say,
Then he goes down.
then he's going to go down.
So I'm curious though, because I understand what you said. However, about the percentages of winning and
Sure.
such. But if our ultimately goal in the skill-based ranking system is here, and the 20,000 points
Yeah.
as our
Yeah, that's where you
goal
wanna
objective,
be,
right?
yeah.
As our goal objective. It's not like there's a pool of 20,000 points that we're pulling from. Everybody can earn 20,000 points if everyone was good enough.
No, then it's not skill-based.
No.
So
Sorry.
it's defined as
Yeah.
the worst possible play versus the best
No,
possible
and I get this. Sorry, maybe I asked that wrong. In this case, he won.
If let's add decimals to it, only the best player in the world will have 20,000.000.
Right.
The next best person will have 19999.999, right?
Right.
So like there's only one person that has the
Right.
top.
But this is what I'm saying. But in the case of you're saying the finite part, if this person, so they won,
Right.
but we don't like. I know there's historicals, and it becomes problem, or it becomes not problem. It becomes trickier, more complicated. What I don't understand is what I hear from people that don't understand. It's
Sure.
probably
Yeah.
it's probably the way that I'm asking this, is that because I won, I should have enough of a bonus. Like how maybe
Yeah.
I wasn't making that. How weighted is the win
Right.
versus the
So it
performance?
turns out that for most modes, like individual performance is a better predictor than the win-loss.
Right.
That doesn't mean that win-loss doesn't count, and it doesn't mean the only thing that matters is personal performance. It's just like these are not like I'm not basing these on like actual numbers. I'm just for illustration. It's like 40% is winning and 60% is individual performance.
Okay.
Right? We don't set those because what matters is how important they are to predicting future winning, which is just like it's not a. We don't get to fake that. We can't make up how skill relates to future winning. That's in the player, right?
Okay.
So the system will actually figure out on a 15-minute basis or something like what is leading to winning. So if everybody starts just doing kills in King of the Hill and nobody goes for the ring, well then kills like as an individual performance will start dropping in terms of what matters for ranks. And that one guy that goes for the ring to win is because getting on that ring and winning the game like will lead to winning, right?
So the person who gets kills and downs and caps and breaks in the King of the Hill setting is
Yeah.
a rounded player, and theoretically would be the one that would get ultimately rewarded over a longer.
If they were to fit the ratios right, then they would like, so like if it was, you know, they kind of balanced the right amount of, if they could sort of do all these things at once, right? Sort of like they get lots of kills, they get lots of caps, they get lots of assists, they get lots of, and they don't die much, right? Then like they'll go up faster. Now, this is how it works behind the scenes. We have done a very mediocre job of presenting it in a way that's digestible. So, like, forget all this. Okay. So, like, that's how it works.
Clear as day.
Yeah, it's extremely effective at judging skill.
Right.
So, it actually, it's almost so good that it's uncomfortable, right?
Right.
So it's like, I really don't want to know that much about myself, right? So like, when we've presented it in the game is super raw, not very, comfortably presented, and we really haven't helped people understand what goes into getting those points, right? And that's on us, like completely.
Yeah.
We have plans to improve it. We want to explain in the game how, like, what each of the aspects of goes into personal performance
Yeah.
and how much comes from win and from personal performance.
Yeah.
That's just a whole bunch of UI work that we have to get to.
Okay.
Now, in the current game,
Is that on the roadmap?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. In the current game, we've got these boxes. We'll just do 3 rounds and then a total, where we say like, you won the round and you went up by 30 points. Like you lost, you went down by 15, and then you won and you went like 15, right?
Yeah.
Actually, this is not a good. We'll just say 10, right? So 10.
Well,
Because I just want to have it not be 0 at the end, right?
Right.
So, and then at the end of the game, you went up by 5 points, right?
yeah.
So, like, one, nobody likes to see these numbers about like, I lost points, and then and the one they really hate seeing, totally naturally, I won.
And I went down.
And I went down. And that's because there's any amount of personal performance. As soon as you even put like 1% of personal performance, you can get a negative number there, right? Now, this also means that like all of the like reading of this means that you kind of see the final impact, and then you're like, why did I get this? Oh, it was because of this. And you don't really kind of look at the whole kind of holistic picture.
Right.
And like, it doesn't make sense. So you're like, I can't reconcile this with our brain. And this was us kind of giving you all the raw information in an almost too cold kind of a way to understand like how it was working. And the other thing is, we had hoped that by doing this gently, which is, it's tuned like sort of at the beginning to not do this so much, that we would kind of help people understand that as they got higher, like this could happen. And that didn't work. So we have some plans for like going forward, how to help like people understand this as well as give people a better experience. So this isn't, I can't say which like TU this is going to come out in, but what we want to do is have like the same system with one tweak and a very different presentation. So the way we want to start it is, okay, like in this round, this game, your expected performance was like, let's go back to your expected performance was 500 points. Okay. So this is kind of like, I entered into this match, given the configuration of the other players and this team and my role and everything, you were expected to get 500 points for this match.
And those are tier skill points at the end.
Those are tier
Those
skill
aren't
points.
score points inside the game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's the other thing we need to talk about is that the, like right now, and our apologies, like the in-game score is using the old like classic Gears scoring system.
Right.
And it doesn't relate directly to skill points. And so we have to bring those two more in alignment because being an MVP.
I was say, yeah, because we've got
Yeah.
K-Boxed was like, why do people who win games and even get MVP lose rank points?
Right. Well, there's the two reasons for that is one, part of it we just explained, and the
Yeah.
other is the MVP component. There's points you get in the game, like for executions or headshot kills, that don't carry into the skill calculations, right? So you can actually get, and like we give 300 points for a ring capture, which is like the actual skill impact from a ring is not near that. So we're looking at tuning those points to be more reflective of what the outcomes are.
Right, because I think for one of the consistent things that I hear is the incongruity between the score that I see
Yeah.
in the game versus the score that I see at the end of the game.
Yeah, and that was because the scoring was intended to be like a in-game was like a recognizing you for fun things in the game, and then the skill is entirely skill. And
And people are conflating the
and
two.
well, I mean that's we didn't explain the difference very well, and it's very intuitive to say points and points. Why don't they line up? Right?
Yeah,
So it's on us.
It's a logical assumption
Yeah,
that people are
totally.
making.
So the way that we want to change, this is skill points, right? So your expected performance, your expected performance is roughly 500 points. So like that's kind of, if you look at your skill of 10,000 points, you're like, in this match, I'm going to risk 500 points. Now, you don't get to know this number until we've made the match, right? Like if you're facing all bronzes, that's going to be different than facing all like golds, right? So you're going to say like, okay, we expect you, given the what we just explained about which team's going to win and your relative skill level, we expect you to perform at roughly 500 points. And then from each of those 3 rounds, okay, we're going to tell you like you got, say like 50 points for winning, right? And then you say you lost. Oh, actually, we'll got 0 for
Loss.
losing and 50 for winning, right?
Okay.
So, and this is win, loss, win. Okay. And then from a personal performance point of view, let's say you did really well. So we're going to give you like 100, and you did well here, like 100, and you did well here, sort of 100, right? So
You'd actually go down in this scenario.
so in this scenario, you actually got 400 points, right? Like good, but you didn't meet expectations. You really needed to like either win this or go up in personal performance. And so by communicating, which we don't do right now, by communicating the expectations like in the explanation, and we can probably show this to you at some point, like at the beginning of the match too, right? And we'd like to get to a point where you can sort of see how you're progressing through the match, but that takes a lot more work. So at least this story makes more sense. Like you were expected to go here, here's all the points you got, and here's the net result, which means like you went down by 100 points, right? Now, at least this is like explains it. What we want to do is take this personal performance and say like, actually you got 60 points for kills, you got 40 points for caps or whatever, and these are just illustrative numbers, right?
yeah.
So we want to show you all the factors that go into it, so you know, like, okay, for personal performance, here's how much like I got from each.
Because that will help me learn
Yeah.
on what I need to do. Like, because if I look at, if I go and I see just this number to this number,
Yeah.
I'm still like, I understand a little
Right.
bit more, but I don't know how to actually
That's right.
change my behavior other
Right.
than just get good.
And this also communicates how much personal performance versus wins matters, but
Right.
really people want to know, how do I get better here? And that's what we want to do. So you're going to have a gain like 60 from kills or whatever, and 40 from caps, or actually whatever. Let's say 70. You even did better, like 70 from kills and 30 from caps or something.
And then and then there's downs. There's a whole like this list is
Well, this list isn't as long as we want it to be currently. So it's really just kills, deaths, and caps for most things. Okay?
Oh, right. So if I get deaths, then it's like minus 15 or whatever would be, correct?
Right. So then it would be whatever here, because we set it up like -0 deaths,
Yeah.
right? And we'll actually give this guy
Is there
80.
is there
minus 10 deaths.
a tolerated amount of deaths that I can have?
You can, like, with deaths, you're only limited by the amount of time and the willingness of the other team to kill you. So
No, but from a score standpoint. So if you're punishing me for the number of deaths that I
if
have,
you do a pathological game where you just run in and die a million times, yeah, like, you may end up with negative points at the end because you did something so terrible that the system's like, I don't even know what to do with you. You were expected to be a 500, but you were like 0.
Yeah.
So like you'll go down a lot.
yeah,
Right?
and it matters who you die to. Yes or no?
Not really. It
Okay.
matters what the other team's composition is and your team's composition is for the
Because
win-loss.
in the other one, like if the guy who was performing at the 9 killed the person who's performing
Like,
at the 3
if-
a lot, does
if-
that matter than the guy who's the 3 killing the 3?
No, there isn't like kill pairing. It's really just like if somebody gets struck in the head with a sniping rifle, it doesn't matter what skill level they are, they're dead.
Yeah, okay.
Right? So like
I think that's good to know.
if we were to do 1v1s, right, then it would absolutely matter because like you know who you're killing.
Right.
But 5v5, because of all the third partying and all the other dynamics, it sort of comes out in the wash.
Yeah, because I could get you full red, I get shot in the back, and then
Exactly.
somebody comes in and kills you.
You could have a bronze player come up and finish, like, clean up for a diamond. Now, we want to make these richer. We want to put in like more about depth, more information for assists, the amount of damage you do, like whether you're cleaning up a kill, all that stuff. That is a bunch of work that we're going to be taking on soon to get that in. Now, when we say soon, like that could be 3 months or something like that, right?
Yeah,
4 or
and I
5.
think one of the things that I'm going to ask Ryan without knowing the answer to this is we did the Omen thing. How do you feel about presenting this to the community and getting some feedback
Yeah, we
on it
will.
as we go along?
No, we've got a mock-up that we're working on right now. We would happily post it like we did with the Omen, and like walk through like here's some of the screens that we're looking at and how we're presenting it.
Yeah.
Can we get your feedback?
Well,
on
and
it?
then the way that the data presented and the information
the
of what it
one
is,
thing
yeah.
we won't control is the weights of all these because they are entirely determined by what leads to winning. So
Right.
we don't noodle with them, and that means that like if caps are worth a certain amount, that's what caps are worth. Now, if people start changing their behavior based on this number, maybe what caps are worth goes up or down, right? So the other thing that we have that's an option that we're talking about is this scenario where I went really far down on a win, and what we may end up doing, or rather what we will consider, and we'll probably put it in the same post in the forum, is whether or not to kind of blunt that, right? So you won't be able to go up as much on a loss when you tent pole, but
Right.
you also won't go down as much when you win, or when you win, but you performed poorly, right? And we think that because we have to make those even, right? And we think that this will help with the feeling of it. It won't mean it's quite as skill-based in terms of the short term, but
Yeah.
it will still be skill-based in the long term.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
So, this is where we want to go with the ranking system. Hopefully this illustration, this is literally the same system behind the scenes. Even though it looks very different, We talk about it very differently. It tells a different story. It's actually the same math under the hood.
This is just a visual manifestation of what.
That's right.
This is us being able to give you more information so you guys understand when you're playing. So when we get the I won MVP and I went down, valid complaints, this is going to give you some of those context on really more the nuance and why what happened.
We will try to tune in ranked the calculations for MVP to be closer to what these numbers are. Right. So if you get MVP, you're the one that's like, doing the best in the game.
Okay. So, a few more questions.
Sure. I think we're done with the
let's get rid of the whiteboard. Let's have a seat. Okay. All right. We're back. I'm just going to my OCD is going to drive me nuts if I could see the thing. So, Kevin's Chill asks, I'm being placed with players who are either too easy or too hard for my skill level, despite being placed after ranked for my placement matches. So we talked a little bit about that, but let's talk a little bit about
we just talked about skill.
But let's talk about the team composition. So how do we go? And because I think we've all been on those matches where somebody is either like, wow, that guy's really good, why is he here? Or maybe that person is not, shouldn't be in that scenario.
I want to be super clear.
Yeah.
The skill rating system is used by matchmaking.
Right.
The skill rating system isn't the matchmaker.
Okay.
Okay? The matchmaker uses a lot of different things in conjunction to put matches together. The skill rating system just judges your performance. And it says the way that you played, will it lead to more winning or more losing in the future? That's all that it does.
Okay.
It's the matchmaker that puts together all the matches.
Okay.
So do we want to talk about the matchmaker or
I think so. I think in the context of rank, people are confused because they look at when they're hitting a rank and they're grinding, and the rank is a personal reflection of their skill. They want to feel like that skill is there's parity with the other people they're playing with and playing against,
right?
So that their skill is judged fairly.
Sure.
So that if I'm having an experience where the team is really unbalanced one way or the other, because if I'm on a team that is expected to win by a lot, by your percentage, I have to overperform by a huge index to move up because I'm expected to. But so without people knowing all those numbers, I think that's where the confusion is a little bit.
Sure. So we'll talk about the matchmaker a little bit.
Okay.
The matchmaker uses more considerations than just skill. So it uses what is the current mode? What is the current population for that mode? What's everybody's costs, in terms of ping to around the world? So after you wait kind of long enough, and if to get a match that has good ping, if it doesn't quite have enough people at your skill level, at some point it's going to start to expand. Now, it shouldn't really go past about, at most, like we talked about at the high end, it might go 2 tiers kind of down. Now,
so masters to high onyx.
Yeah, that kind of deal, right? And maybe at the worst times, you might see a couple high golds or something. Now,
and keeping in mind, people are on a trajectory, right?
Yeah.
So a high gold is if a high gold is moving in that direction, then
Right.
there's the predictive of where they were, and we're going to talk about this in a
we'll
little bit.
talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah,
So in the middle, you'll actually have probably about maybe half a tier that it'll kind of expand out because there's a lot more people in the middle. So now there might be bugs, right? And they're we've actually seen some data where every once in a while there's a person that kind of shouldn't belong there. And this was something that wasn't happening in Gears 4 that we've actually seen some data recently that it's not often, but there's a couple rare times where we've seen some people that weren't quite where they were supposed to be, and we're looking into it.
Okay.
So most of the time when you see sort of these matches of differing performance, it's because the system has wanted to keep making matches as opposed to just having everybody wait for a really long time, right?
Right.
To get an ultra close match, in terms of the range of skills. Now, once a match is made, we actually try to balance the teams as well as we can to make an even match. Now, I know that doesn't mean that we want it where there's everybody from diamond to bronze and we just make even teams. We want there to be close skill ranges like we talked about earlier. The best is where they're all kind of as close as possible, where the two teams are balanced and they all have similar costs and nobody quits. Like
Yeah.
that's the perfect world, right? And the match gets made in 1 second. So, like that would be awesome. Because that like is almost impossible to happen, we have to make a compromise somewhere, right? And that means that to get people into a game, at some point we might include a broader range of skills than like we would ideally want.
Yeah.
Now, like previous to Gears 4, there wasn't skill-based matchmaking, and so you would have diamonds and bronzes playing in the same matches, like in the previous like Gear games. So, like we are still trying to make the matchmaker as fast as possible, and to put the matches together as tight as possible. And we are constantly evaluating its performance, and we're constantly measuring it to make sure it's doing a good job. It has done a reasonable job over the last few months, but because the skill rating system was wonky, like that would mean that it couldn't judge making the best matches,
Okay.
right? So now that the skill system has been ironed out, which we're still making some tweaks to, but it's pretty close, and the matchmaker has been tuned better, we will see improvement. Now, again, we will sometimes catch these
There's always going to be anomalies. It's just a fact of
every time we see an anomaly, we start to investigate it and we track it down and we
Yeah.
try to fix it. So, and sometimes the anomalies are fixable, and sometimes they're actually just the way life is, right?
Well, and sometimes, and I've talked about this before, sometimes the anomalies are man-made, whereas, I'm friends with a lot of pro players.
Yeah.
And sometimes we play together.
Yeah.
And I'm going to inherently, if I'm playing with 2 or 3 pro players, I'm going to get pulled up into
Yeah.
a group of people that
That's
I
right.
really don't belong to play with.
That's very true.
But no one that I'm playing with knows,
Yeah.
other than the guys that
That's
I'm playing
right.
with. Nobody knows
Yeah.
that I'm actually not.
And in retrospect, we probably I think there's another
Yeah.
question about why we don't show the
yeah,
ranks.
why don't we show the rank? We
Right.
get this a lot.
We get this a lot. Yeah.
I want to see my ranks, or I want to see the ranks of everyone I was playing against
Sure.
in the post-match leaderboard,
Yeah.
so I can be like, aha, I knew it. They were all Onyxes. Those
Right.
guys screwed me. That's why I lost.
Right. Now-
Everybody wants a reason why they won or they lost.
Yes, which that was our philosophy in Gears 4, and
Yeah.
that was why we provided it, exactly that reason. And then, the future happened, which was that what we got was, why did I get beat by a bunch of bronzes, or why did I get beat by a bunch of silvers?
Yeah.
And or why did I get a game? We beat them, but they were low, ranked.
Why was I matched up against
Why was
those
I
guys?
matched? We were all golds. Why did I get matched against silvers? And that's because the visible rank is, for some players, where you'll see their silver rank is where they'll end up, and for other players, it's like a
Where they
part of their
start.
journey where they start and they're actually much higher. So if we show you the visible rank, then there's this discussion about why are we getting match made this way, and it's because we know more about where their journey is, and we're trying to make a better experience for everybody, and you won't always see that, right?
Your
So-
rank is like 1 point
Yeah.
in a continuum
Yeah.
that is not reflective
And-
of where it necessarily
And if we
is.
go the other way, where we just matchmake just based on the visible skill, then that means smurfing is super easy.
Right.
Right? You just make a new account, and then you're at bronze, you get 10 games where you just slaughter everybody, and then you just make a new account. So the current system sort of tries to get really good players out of bronze faster. But if we were to show everybody's rank, you would still see these mismatches a little bit, and then there'd be confusion. So we're not completely adverse to showing them. It was really based on the amount of player feedback we got from Gears 4 that there's a lot of negativity.
Yeah, I know.
generated around this
I mean,
screen.
I would personally get tweeted a ton
Multiple
of
times a day.
why
Yeah.
was I with this person?
Yeah.
Or what the heck, your matchmaking is broken, because
And-
it's not the case.
And we
It's-
know that that case where it was 48 versus 52, most of the matches are like that.
Yeah.
Right? And we know that that's what's happening, but to be able to communicate that to people and have it every single time have the kind of story of the match be something that was friendly isn't going to happen, right? So sometimes you'll see a match where you're playing against a gold player who shows as a silver, and the match was fun, but they won, and you're like, why did I play a bunch of silvers that beat me, right? Your system's broken.
Yeah.
So we added the favored to try to help with that. we're not totally sure that's working. So we will see if we can do better to help communicate.
And if you guys have any suggestions on
Yeah,
how
for sure.
on how you think you could overcome that issue of sort of a person's rank is not a fixed point, but a dynamic journey.
It's in their journey.
Then let us know how. If you think we can present that, then like, hey, like, come to us. I mean, we've
sure.
got ideas here, but if
Totally
you,
open to
like,
ideas.
yeah, let us through.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 more questions, and then I know this has been a long one. So, any plans for so Spike 935 asks, what about limiting ranked to a certain level? Like, are there plans to do
Yeah.
something like that?
So I think we've talked about this publicly already. We totally plan on doing level locking for each one of the ranked lists. It's being implemented. I don't know which TU it's going to come out in,
Okay.
but we are definitely aligned there. It's something we would have liked from launch, but it just takes a little more work to do and a little more UI than we had time to do.
Okay, and the last one is a big one. I understand your rank calculations,
Sure.
mostly. What happens when there's a quitter? How does that impact that whole score?
So-
I probably should have asked this before the whiteboard.
So quitting sucks for everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it really does. Don't quit. Please don't quit. Please play. If you sign up for a rank match, just play it through. Quitting means that the team that loses, like, even taking one person out of 5, basically almost zeros the odds for like that team to win. So even if they were like predicted to win at 75% and 25, by taking a person out, the odds just drop a lot. So
Well, and your matchmaking is pretty tight.
It's pretty tight, yeah.
So because the teams are usually so evenly matched,
Yeah.
pulling one person out, it's really hard
it's
to tent
really
pole.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, not you can tent pole. You just really have to
But,
win.
but
Like,
all
it's
4
hard.
people need to like play
Yeah.
the games of their lives.
They need to
like,
all instantly play 20% better to win.
Yeah.
So that means they're going to lose, right? And that means that, like, most often they're going to lose. So not only is it a bad experience, but also all the win components are just going to be 0, right?
Right.
And that means to, like,
Because you were expected to win.
that we're expected to win, right? And or no, sorry. In this, it's just like they would get so many points for the win,
Right.
In this particular, like, actually, I'm pointing to the whiteboard you can't see. So, the points you were expected to win, or that you could have won by winning, you don't get. So
Right.
it's all 0. So that means the personal performance is the only thing that matters. Now it gets worse because you have 5v4, and the 5th person can hurt your performance, right? So like normally, if you're sort of doing a one-on-one, now there's an extra guy that's lancering you, so you can't show the system how good you are.
Right.
Right? So that 5th person is now going to rob you of your personal performance. So not only do you take the like less points from a loss, you can't show your performance as well. Now it also gets worse for the other team because now there's only 4 other players to show their individual performance to. So now they're all like sharks with too little food. Now it's like, I need to show the system that I can get like so many kills and I can get so many caps and I can get so many, but there's just less of the other team to kind of, you have like high-end players who are trying to like fight over one player to kill, right? So we will improve this. We're looking into math that will help do the scenarios where somebody quits to kind of like really accurately judge how each person is doing. Right now, it does a little bit of it. It kind of softens it for both teams. We're looking at potentially just fully softening it and going to win-loss when somebody quits. However, there's ways of manipulating that. So it's really an extremely difficult problem to solve for ranked. There's no real good thing about having a fair match and then making it unfair.
Yeah. And we will, as we roll that stuff out, we will let you guys know any changes that we're going to be making around
we'll
that
probably,
stuff,
for sure. And I think we will have
Yeah. multiple
multiple phases of, again, like we did with the reset and the
Yeah.
matchmaking updates.
Yeah.
Like we will be rolling out further phases of ranked improvements, and we'll try to show as big a roadmap as we can.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So like level locking or whatever. Like we'll put those on. So like we talked about, quitting is just bad. Please don't quit. We do have like systems that we put in place to punish quitters,
Yeah.
We're actually
they work, but they aren't 100%.
So-
They don't actually go to the person's
Yeah.
house and hold them from like quitting. Like we can't do that. And if they just stand there AFK, like that's no better, right? So
So we do have some stuff that we are working on. So we have right now we've talked about this, our RCR, which is designed to punish quitters, and then we're looking at adding some nuances around that as well.
yeah, so like what I'd like to do, and we can get community feedback on this, is instead of just preventing people from matchmaking, we want to, if they quit, they're going to incur like a little debt, and that debt is going to be in terms of like finished matches, right? So what we want you to do is say you won't be able to play ranked again until you go win a bunch of matches in quick play, right? So
Complete or win?
win.
Win.
Yeah.
Okay.
So because completing just means you stand there and you can ruin their experience. We want you to push and win.
Right.
And maybe we'll do like get so many kills or something like that. We'll put some like task for that player to go do before they can come back and play ranked again. So instead of preventing you from playing the game, we're just going to prevent you from playing ranked. And the more you quit, like if you come back to rank again and quit again, then the task we're going to get you to do is going to keep going up and up. Right now, we just say you can't play matchmaking, right?
Yeah.
And we don't think like
It's not elegant, but it's kind of what we have with
yeah,
the tools at hand.
Exactly, and I think that all the person does is go away and wait and then come back, right? If we say, sure, you can keep playing the game, but you can't like ruin other people's ranks until you've done some work and shown the game that you're willing
It's
to
like
prove
community service.
It's like community service, right? So that isn't going to be implemented right away. It's going to take some work to build that system, but that's where we'd like to end up. And if you have thoughts on that, please let us know. We'll create sort of threads in the forums and link it on Twitter to kind of get feedback on exactly these topics.
Cool. Well, I think we went through, and I know we got a whole bunch of questions submitted. I distilled them down into, they were all variations of the same one, so thank you everybody for responding. Sorry this took a little bit longer. We've been a little busy doing some stuff around here. We're going to have another podcast coming soon. Drop us a note on Twitter or even in the chat or even in the comments on this video on YouTube to let us know what you'd like to see for our next podcast. And other than that, we will see you online. We'll see you guys later. So thanks, Ryan, for explaining in a great depth around what ranked was. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.